Senator Colbeck, to your amendment number 4.
Thank you, Madam President. If you're like my office, you've received a lot of complaints about smart meters. They're usually from our constituents, i.e. the people that we represent. A lot of these people feel that nobody in Lansing is listening to them on this issue. Some are concerned about privacy, some are concerned about health, some are concerned about accurate pricing, and others are concerned about data hacking on their usage profiles. Regardless how we in the legislature respond to our constituents' desire for choice and freedom, we should instead come down to talk about personal private and private property rights. The core question we need to ask ourselves is if a utility customer does not want one of these smart meters, regardless of the reason, do they have a private property right to be able to retain their analog meter? And I say yes. These analog meters have worked well for decades. It was never an issue. If we don't, we're saying that we're supposedly regulating a market that the only way that the customer can keep the lights on in their home is if they consent to a device on their property that causes them significant grief. That is stress every day, 7 days a week, 24/7. Now let's think about that for a moment and put ourselves into their shoes. After all, we are their representatives. Their home is supposed to be their castle, yet they have no control over the devices to be placed there. What is the real, true, and substantial harm in letting these people keep their analog meters? For decades, this has worked just fine. And let me emphasize these words. There is simply no substantial harm here in letting them have a real choice. So in a regulated environment and looking at property rights, we must let people have the freedom to make this choice for themselves, even if it is not the choice that we would make for ourselves. Otherwise, these people are made to feel like hostages in their own home, and it's our role to make sure that this is not the case. Now, my amendment today provides some measure of protection for our constituents. At its core, it does the following things. Number one, it allows people to keep an analog meter and expressly puts into statute that a utility cannot deny them power for refusing to take a smart meter. Number two, it puts into statute already existing rule that MPSC has had for many, many years that allows a person to self-read their own meter. This already existing system and my amendment has protections in place so that it cannot be gamed. But it does allow people who opt out to self-read their meter and thus only be charged $5 a month for opting out instead of the $10 that's currently being charged today. For those that want to use smart meters, which will be the vast majority of people, the amendment also requires in statute reasonable privacy protection regarding their power usage profile data that people deserve, as well as minimum security standards that protect all of us from hacking, especially when smart meters allow for a remote-controlled shutoff. This is a protection that we all need in statute. So this amendment doesn't necessarily give those opposed to smart meters everything that they want, but I think it does a very good job here in creating a balanced legislation. At the end of the day, is simply ensuring true analog choice, codifying some existing MPSC rules, and putting into statute some common sense protections that I think we can all agree on. This amendment will not hurt the utilities in any real or substantial way, and we owe it to our constituents to offer them the freedom to make their own choices on their own property, even if they are not the choices we would make. I hope you would join me in offering them a voice here today in Lansing by adopting this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Colbeck.